Welcome to Smells Like Smoke. My name is Trevor DeVage. I'm your host for this podcast where we talk about what does it look like to help rescue people from the flames of judgment, straight out of my life verse, Jude 23, where it literally says, rescue others by snatching them from the flames of judgment. Well, if you've made it this far, you are all the way through the first season of a brand new podcast called Smells Like Smoke. Now, it used to be called The Make. The Make went on for almost 4 years. It is now Smells Like Smoke, and we have come to the end of this first season. This is the last episode for a while. We'll be back in August, taking a little break for the summer. But this podcast is literally riddled with all sorts of truths, help, and rawness about how we can help people find rescue, redemption, and hope, including yourself. So do me a favor, if you've not listened to the other 17 episodes of this season, go back, listen to it. You heard me talk about on the last episode, I've just finished the manuscript for my very first book called Smells Like Smoke, which this podcast is based around. So if you like this content, the book goes way deeper. There's more information, more stories, and more ways to get engaged with the rescue work that is helping people find hope and redemption. So on this last episode of season 1, let me start with a warning that most people don't see coming. And here it is. The fire can save you. But here's the other thing the fire can do. The fire can actually harden your heart. See, rescue work changes you. Suffering changes you. Pain changes you. And the only question is how. Some people will step into hard places and they come out more compassionate. Others step into the same fire and they come out closed off. They come out cynical. They come out numb. I remember my very first trip to a third world country. I went to India about 25 years ago. And I remember stepping into that country, and I can still remember the smells, the sounds, the looks, the views of abstract third world poverty and hopelessness in the eyes of people. I remember going into this village where we were doing medical work. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I went in to pray with people. And I'll never forget, we pulled this bus into a village where they had never seen white people before. No other race. We stepped off the bus. There was 10,000 people from the village, and people came out, and this one woman, she was touching my face, just trying to figure out the pigment in my skin. And I remember coming back from that trip, seeing people go from literally death and hopelessness to transformation and hope. And when I first came back, I understood both sides of rescue work. One, I was fired up. I was excited. I couldn't wait to do more. The other side was I was a little angry with the culture in which I now live. There's some cynicism and some hopefulness. See, same fire, different outcomes. And today we're talking about how do we stay soft-hearted in a very hard-hearted world? Because if you let the fire harden your heart, you may still be active, but you'll stop being effective. Let me say that again. You may still be active, but you'll stop being effective. So why does this matter? Well, this matters because compassion fatigue is real. People feel it. Leaders feel it. Men feel it. Women feel it. Rescuers feel it. You listen to the stories, you carry the weight, you absorb the pain. And over time, something shifts inside of you. You stop feeling as much. You start pulling back. You start protecting yourself. Not because you don't care, but because caring hurts. My wife is a nurse. She's a critical care nurse by trade. And I used to ask her, she'd come home and talk about so-and-so coded today, and the code was hard and they died. And I asked her, I was like, have you ever just allowed yourself to get numb to death? And she goes, I hope I never do. Because caring hurts, and I need to feel the pain with them. See, if you're not careful, self-protection turns into emotional shutdown. So what does compassion fatigue look like? Because see, compassion fatigue does not show up all at once. It creeps in. It sounds like this. Well, I've heard this before. Or maybe it sounds like this. Well, they'll never change. Or how about this? I don't have the energy for this anymore. Or maybe someone else can deal with it. Someone else can do it. You still show up physically, but emotionally, you're checked out. See, that's not strength. That's survival mode, and survival mode is not where rescue happens. So let me speak to men specifically. Why do men harden their hearts? Well, I think it happens because softness feels dangerous. We're taught early as men, don't cry, don't feel, don't let it get to you. Suck it up. So when pain piles up, we armor up. We shut down emotions. We limit empathy. We distance ourselves. We get quiet. See, that armor helps you survive short term, but long term, it actually costs you your soul. Here's how. Hard-hearted men stop rescuing. You know what they start doing? They start managing. So let me dig into where I live a little bit here in Tucson. If you watch this somewhere else, I live in Tucson, Arizona, and I've sat with men in Tucson on almost a weekly basis who used to be deeply compassionate. And then they've stepped into hard places. We're a large military town here. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is here. Fort Huachuca Army Base is here. We have border control agents. We have people that work in law enforcement. We have people that are first responders, EMTs, and people that just love people deeply. They've stepped into hard places. They've walked with broken people. They gave themselves fully. And then something changed. Not because they stopped believing, but because they stopped feeling. See, they'd seen too much. They'd carried too much. They lost too much. And no one taught them how to guard their hearts without closing their hearts off. So what's the difference between guarding your hearts and hardening your hearts? The difference between guarding and hardening your hearts. I think this is important because Scripture tells us to guard our hearts. It doesn't tell us to harden our hearts. So guarding them means protecting what is sacred. If we harden our hearts, it means shutting down what is sacred. See, guarded hearts stay tender. Hardened hearts become distant. Guarding your heart requires intention. Hardening happens by default. That's usually what happens when you're around it too much, but guarding your heart actually requires you to be really intentional. Honestly, working in the church, this is really hard and easy for me. It's hard for me to stay tenderhearted, especially just day to day. You hear the stories, you hear the gossip, you hear the things, and you're like, what's the point? But if you guard your heart, you see the people Jesus sees. See, Jesus had this very tender side. Like if you look at Jesus, he saw suffering constantly. He encountered brokenness daily. He carried grief deeply, like all the things. And yet he stayed tender. Like we see him weep in Scripture. He felt compassion. He was moved by pain. Jesus didn't numb himself to survive the mission. He stayed connected to the Father. That's how he did it. That's the key. Tenderness flows from intimacy with God. Let me say it again. Tenderness flows from intimacy with God. So why is tenderness strength? Well, let me say something very countercultural. Soft hearts are not weak. They're strong. Soft hearts are not weak. They are strong. It takes strength to stay compassionate. It takes courage to keep caring. It takes discipline to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. See, hard-hearted people avoid pain. Strong people face it with wisdom. Tenderness is not the absence of boundaries. It's the presence of love. I want to say that again. I need you to lean into this. Tenderness is not the absence of boundaries. It's the presence of love. So what's the cost of hardening your heart? When men specifically that I know harden their hearts, a few things happen. They actually become transactional. They lose patience. They stop listening. They start minimizing pain. Rescue turns into obligation. People, they turn into problems. Ministry turns into management. And eventually, here's what happens. Their joy disappears. See, that's the cost. So why does God care about your heart? See, God's not just interested in what you do, but he actually cares deeply about who you're becoming. You can do all the right things with the wrong heart. I've seen it all the time. But God would rather slow you down than let you lose your tenderness. Because tenderness is what keeps you human. Tenderness keeps you compassionate. Tenderness keeps you available. So what are the practices that keep you tender? Let me get real practical with you. Here's some practical ways that you can stay soft-hearted without burning out. Here's the first one. Daily honesty with God. Daily honesty with God. I would also say don't perform. Tell the truth about how you feel. But you got to be honest with God. Here's the second thing. Sabbath rest. Now, that sounds very churchy, right? But it's actually very biblical. Sabbath rest. Rest is not optional. It recalibrates your heart. I've found myself in the last couple months just saying a lot, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. You know what that means? It probably means it's time for Sabbath. When you make rest optional, your heart pays the price. Here's the third thing. Put limits on exposure. You can't carry every story. You got to know when to step back. This is why I don't watch the news anymore. I can't carry every story I see. I have people all the time go, why have we not talked about this or prayed about this or done that? I'm like, I pray for all of these things collectively. But if I took every second of my day to look at every crazy thing going on in the world, I couldn't carry every story. Neither can you. You've got to know when to step back. Here's the fourth. Embody practices. You're like, what does that mean? Well, walk, breathe, be present in your own body. For me, I embody the practices of I go to the gym every day, 5:30. I go to the gym. And then I have the same breakfast every day when I work out. And I stay in the same presence of who I am every day in those moments. When I don't do that, my heart starts to drift. Here's the fifth thing. Safe people. You got to have at least one place where you're not the strong one. Some of you know my friend Darian Sanders. Darian's one of these people in my life. Just a couple weeks ago, I was with him. I sat in his kitchen, had dinner with him and his wife and his little boy. And can I tell you, he's one of my safe people. I have a few. But he's the one place where I don't always have to be the strong one. We carry each other's burdens together because tenderness requires support. Now, I want to use a word with you that we don't use a lot. It's this word lament. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with rescue? What does that have to do with tenderheartedness? Well, here's what I know. Most people often skip lament. We jump straight to fixing, but lament is how the heart processes pain. See, Jesus lamented. He mourned. The Psalms are full of lament. Lament keeps pain from turning into bitterness. And if you don't express it, here's what happens. Your grief will calcify. It'll harden your heart. See, staying soft-hearted doesn't mean staying naive. But it doesn't mean trusting everybody. But here's what it does mean. And it doesn't mean ignoring boundaries or avoiding discernment. But soft hearts can still be wise. Tender men can still be strong. The goal is not vulnerability without wisdom. The goal is compassion with clarity. Let me say it again. The goal is not vulnerability without wisdom. The goal is compassion with clarity. That's the goal. So what does all this mean for rescue? As we wrap up season 1, well, here's what it does require. Rescue requires tenderness. People in pain do not need hard-hearted leaders. They need present ones. They need someone who can sit with them, who can listen to them, who can feel with them. And if you lose tenderness, here's what you lose. You lose proximity with people because they either become projects or they become pains. And without proximity, rescue stops. So I want to give a word to those of you who might feel a little numb right now. If you feel numb, I need you to hear this. Numbness is not failure. It's a signal. Your heart is tired. Your soul needs care. Here's what I'd say. Don't shame yourself. Don't ignore it. Bring it to God. Here's what I love about God. He is gentle with tired hearts. So here's the hope. God can restore tenderness. He can soften in you what has been hardened in your heart. He can heal what has been wounded. He can renew compassion without draining you. The fire doesn't have to harden your heart. And if you stay close to God, it can actually refine you. So let me give you a closing challenge for this week and the next few weeks. Pay attention to your heart, not your output, not your schedule, your heart. Where have you hardened your heart? Like literally ask yourself, where have I hardened my heart? Where have you numbed your soul? Where do you need renewal? I want you to choose one practice this week that restores tenderness because the world's hard enough. So don't let the fire harden your heart. This is Smells Like Smoke, a podcast where we're learning that commitment is not just about endurance, it's about tenderness. And so if you like this podcast, I would beg of you, ask of you, plead with you, if you love this, do me a favor. Would you share it? Would you put it out there for someone else to hear, someone else to watch? You can go to our YouTube channel. You can go to our Instagram page at Smells Like Smoke Pod, and you can follow along. You can ask us questions. You can leave comments. We would love to engage with you, be a part of the conversation with you. But I'm looking forward to a little break, but we're going to come back strong in about 8 weeks with another season of Smells Like Smoke. In fact, we're going to step into the next part of what this looks like, the commission, and the talking about mercy for the doubter and why doubt is not the enemy. So do me a favor, all of you out there that are part of this podcast community. Stay soft, stay wise, stay close to the fire, and we'll be back soon.